Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and today I'm once again joined by my good friend, Zach Ingo Finch. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, Merry Tuesday, everybody. We're one day away from the weekend, one day closer to another weekend game where we're... But then, yeah, I'm all right.
It is everybody's favourite day of the week, where we have the unenviable task of diving into the tactics that cost us the game on Saturday. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So, right, Zach, back five versus who's at the back, what's going on is what we saw on Saturday, right? The first half was very distinct back five with man marking. And then after that, do we really know what happened?
It's we're gonna lose and we're already like 2-0 down, so let's just chuck the kitchen sink it and hope that it works.
We kind of went to Jan Bednarek at the back, everyone else in some form of midfield or going forward. I think Aribo was supposed to be playing centre back as well, but definitely at several points was the furthest forward on the pitch, and then ended up at left wing, and then didn't get back in time. Yeah, it's
we ever just going to play?
Right?
Yeah, we ever. This is the problem. Sometimes I wonder, like, we've been playing this back three for so long now, and even the Russell Martin, we had like this weird sort of versus a back four, and then every time he did a back four, it was kind of bad. But it's just like it does feel we just ship goals left, right, and centre. I don't understand. I almost wonder: is it like better that we try and play like when Russ was in charge for those two games, just actually aim for a clean sheet rather than trying to win? And sometimes I wonder if that's the case. Like again, if we had another 3 draws, we beat Burnley. We beat the Derby's. Sorry, Burnley fans. Derby's record, right? I understand that there's a problem in attack. We've got this problem where we can't score. And because we have this severe problem that we can't score, it seems really weird to me that we keep trying to chuck the kitchen sink at making that work rather than shoring up the way that our defence works.
Yeah.
And we're so prone to individual errors that it means that any system we try and implement doesn't matter because when we go 1-on-1 with somebody, we lose the ball. Or alternatively, we pass it back and it gets lost.
Yeah, I actually think the main problem from what I saw, or at least what I saw on Saturday, is that the back five kind of shifts the problem further back on the pitch than you'd like. Like, I kind of feel like with a back four and an extra defensive midfielder pushing the problem a further 10-15 yards up the pitch, the midfield we had just got walked over so easily. And I know some of that was down to personnel, and some of that was down to the system or lack thereof. But what's the point in having all of these defenders when we concede so many regardless? We should just put more strikers on and try and outscore the opponent, right?
Well, we tried that. And like I think that's what it felt like we tried to do. And then like, yeah, we got a goal back. And then the problem is that then it was so easy to just take advantage of us. And all it required was for Bournemouth to turn it on, basically. They went, oh, no, this game's getting close again. Better score another goal than see out the game. And that's what they were able to do without really... It wasn't like us where it feels like every goal we get is like we have had to put so much time and effort. And it's like, it's the amount of pain we have to get through to just score. And like, I don't know, for the rest of the season, is it better than just go 0-0? Or are you right? Is it, let's chuck this kitchen sink at it and then just go all out attacking? But the problem that you've got is that you were also very astute in the way you were talking about how this is essentially a bedding in period, right? And as much as people don't like to hear it, and as much as we can speculate over the future of the manager, the current plan, as it is that Juric is going to implement the way he wants to play, and he's still tinkering, practicing, deciding on personnel, having difficult decisions to make because he's falling out with personnel. So they're still learning. You can still see that there's some, and I think someone pointed out that the sort of Russell Martin ball is very much a get out of jail free card for the fact that maybe Juric isn't as good enough. And I don't know whether I disagree with that or agree. Sometimes they kind of just revert back to what they know, but also it's just, I'm wondering if it's going to pay off in the long run. Like, you seem to have hope that it will, but then you look at sort of performances at the weekend. It must be confusing if you're told to do something for the whole first half that you've practiced in training all week, and the second half just completely sod it off and do what you want. Because that's very much how it felt. Like, especially towards the end when you're bringing on all these attacking players, where I'm like, well, I guess we just don't care if we concede at this point, because at least if we score again, but we can't outscore our opponents. We haven't been able to. The only time that I can think of in recent memory where we came out was that Huddersfield game in the Championship, where we were down, at half time, and then we came back and like somehow won by like 5 goals or whatever I was thinking in the end. And this season, again, me and you talked about it, when you were like, oh, Tall Paul equally as Liza come in. But when we were like 2-0 down, in my head, to win, we need to score 3 goals. And we could barely score 1. And I don't know if it's necessarily down to the system or what. What do you think? Because obviously you are more tactically minded than I am when it comes to this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that
That's a
it's.
ramble, I'm aware.
I think that it's tricky. I think that part of it will be down to Juric and his system, and I don't think that changing it up in the second half is necessarily a bad thing. And who's not to say that that is something that they work on? Like, oh right, well in the second half we need to switch it up a gear, so we're going to make attacking changes. It might well be something that they're comfortable with doing, but it feels really disjointed.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like there is. Like, we accused Russell Martin a lot of not really having a plan B. And my real concern with Juric is that sometimes it feels like there's not even a plan A. Like, I look at the starting lineup and the formation, and it just doesn't ever seem to really gel or click. And it takes some tweaks on field, and even some of those are questionable at times. I've seen a couple of people talking about how after their right back got booked, and we could have used that as a chance because it was Sulemana causing him problems, that immediate as that happened, Sulemana switched to the other side anyway, which took away that issue that really could have been done with. Could have got ourselves into a better position and either put him under pressure because he didn't want to do something stupid and get sent off, or play against 10 men, although famously we all know that is more difficult anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know if any kind of tactics at this point are going to stick enough to help us. It's very clear to me that the main difference is, I'm going to come back to it again, beat the same drum, it's just the fitness and the ability to stay on the ball. You don't get as much time on the ball as you do in other leagues. Every team is just fitter, faster, more aggressive and hungrier than us. That's just the only way it seems. Every time Bournemouth got on the ball, they looked dangerous. Every time they weren't on the ball and we tried to keep the ball, either the player that had the ball was swarmed or there were just no options. And part of that was down to their pressing, but also part of that is just down to how static we are. Only a couple of our players really seem happy to move about the pitch or move too far away from the man they're supposed to be marking, presumably because what's so important in the system is the ability to instantly pick that player back up when in transition. But actually what that's leading to is no space for us to work with and no options. The amount of time someone's just holding on to the ball for too long because they've got nothing else they can do for it. The same can be said of the amount of times Paul actually manages to bring a ball down, which he is quite good at. He gets, Ramsdale is very good at finding Paul with a long ball. I would say maybe 70% of the time he gets the first touch on it. That first touch isn't always great, but if there was someone running up there with him, you've got a good chance of getting on it. But Camaldine has this horrible trait that I've noticed of just giving up on a run immediately as soon as like the first piece of adversity kicks in. I know you said, we raised this yesterday, and you said that maybe preserves him to keep his pace, which is his dangerous point for the rest of the game. But I just don't buy that. You're getting paid hundreds of thousands, or at least tens of thousands of pounds a week. Like, just run for 90 minutes. It's not. I run around on a football pitch for more than 90 minutes a week,
You
and
do.
I don't get paid thousands of pounds to do it. Like, I know it's a different level and a different intensity, but it shouldn't be that hard, should it?
No, I'm in full agreement with you, and I can raise some of my points after a word from our partners.
Yeah.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Okay, so we are back, and Zach, you might have some
Yeah,
other thoughts on
I
fitness.
think it's not just the fitness thing as well. It is sometimes a combination of the fitness and the disconnection. And it's like, I think I've talked about it before, where it just feels like a lot of the players do need to just go back to basics, because those are the things we're really, really struggling with. You're talking about how there aren't men there. Sometimes there are, but like this, the level of misplaced passes, considering we became so well known for having such high passing accuracy and almost playing like quote unquote prime Barcelona. We have fallen from those days where I will watch every single. That seems to be a lot of our problem in attack as well. Is something's building up, they try and find the space, and then they pass it directly to another player. And this is the other problem where like we can isolate and blame the tactics as much as we want, but sometimes the players just aren't doing what you said. As you said, they're just not doing their job. Like we criticise Brie a little bit for just being out of position, and there seems to sort of be an over reliance on, oh well, this guy will pick up there because of this defensive duty, and you don't know if it's because of such a disconnect and such a sort of misunderstanding of what's to be expected of them, especially as obviously everything is being chopped and changed throughout the game non-stop, or if it is just the fact that everyone is so low on confidence they're just bad and are struggling and overthinking everything, right? Like some of the players, as we pointed out, you could see it on their faces a bit more. So Downs, when he was in the team before he decided to have whatever strop he's having at the moment, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, he was starting to get more and more angry, and that was causing him problems because he was often at fault for individual errors that cost us games at the end of the day. Doesn't stop him from being a really good defender. But the problem is that you can have a good 85 minutes, but if you have those one mistake in you, that's a problem. And it's like, if it's a bedding in period as well, the club have made it perfectly clear that, you're going to start bedding in all this stuff with players that just might not be here at the end of the season. Like even like Grombeck, who, is currently on loan. I don't think there's an option to buy. He's going to disappear. You've got a lot of players they're trying to like bed a system in. And I think that also is the disconnect where a lot of the players now are knowing that we're relegated and potentially, I don't know, not caring about what they're being told to do, not really caring about the tactics that are being asked to be implemented. And I don't think that it's because they don't want to win games, but I don't think that there's as much of a consequence, right? Like if you have already decided that you are relegated, you have already decided that you might not be here at the end of the season, you can try your best within the system, but the system isn't failing. And like you can see that they're getting frustrated with each other sometimes as well, far more than they used to be. Like you can see that visibly on their faces. And again, this is where I can't work out if it's down to just interpersonal relationships due to how horrible the season's been. And a lot of the blame is being put onto Juric and his system because it doesn't seem to be working half as well as the heavy metal football that he wants. And he is recognizing that. So he is having to do what feels to be like patchwork, right? It doesn't feel like, I think it comes back to your point of it doesn't feel like there's sometimes even a plan A. It feels like this is the plan today for the players that I've got that are willing to put in 100% on the field.
Sometimes it doesn't even feel like that, though. That's how disjointed it is. Like, you look at it and see what they're trying to do, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Like, we're lumping the ball up to Tallpool, who hasn't been able to take it down because he's got two defenders around him or is being completely man-marked, but is able to ping a touch off. But then there's no one running onto that touch, and I can see that. I see it happen hundreds of times across like a 2 or 3 week period.
But this is the thing: is neither of
on.
these things are working. So when we were passing out and playing out from the back, we were despising the idea of passing out from the back. Whereas now we're pinging it to Tall Paul, and that did work for like a game. But it turns out that like Premier League opponents, real good. They pick up on that real quick.
You can't just do
And
the same thing. You need a middle ground.
everyone's
You need
seen the
options.
montage of Paul against Liverpool now. Like obviously it depends on like this is where some of the outside of the direct people on the pitch come into question, right? Your data analysts, your people who are looking at your opponents for each game and making those decisions are saying this is where you can exploit the weaknesses and stuff. It doesn't feel like we do that probably half as much as we should. And like maybe it's blind optimism at this point, but that's kind of where I hope with the stuff that Spores is doing comes into play a little bit. But it's all difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is not easy. Okay, I've got a couple more points to touch on that are loosely based on tactics. But first, a message from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Okay, so we're back. I want to talk about not so much Tool Pool. Actually, I want to talk about Cameron Archer and how harshly I think he's been done by Juric so far. He, before Russell Martin left and in the in-between period, was one of the only players who consistently, not a huge amount of times, but he scored goals that were proper goals, right? Like he put himself in positions to score goals. And he wasn't always able to convert those 2 goals. Sometimes they were chances that you look at and think, how did you not score that? But how many times have we said that about Tall Paul? He just doesn't seem to find himself in those situations as often. And then he's clearly a confidence player. We saw that at the start of the season. And now he gets 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. How is that doing him any good? Why isn't he getting an in instead of Tall Paul? And instead of just lumping it up to a big target man, why aren't we playing a way that can, put the ball in behind that he needs to spin off a defender and run through on goal that we've seen him do? What aren't other people seeing that I am, or vice versa? Why isn't he all of a sudden getting a shot?
So this is where I find it difficult because I don't ever sort of start accusing people of like not putting in 100% in this or the other. But he definitely had a rumoured move that didn't happen, or potentially maybe that was just a rumour and it was never going to happen in the first place, right? And you don't know if that was off the back of Rusko leaving. Obviously the down situations come out in the public. We didn't expect that to come out into public as much as the sort of. So part of me wonders if it's to do with that, because again, like I don't think we're always picking what I would say are our best players, but he is picking the ones that he has the confidence in to do the job on the pitch that he wants to do. Why is he specifically hitting Paul as a target man? Because it like worked once or twice, I guess. Whereas having sort of, I don't know if this is they don't want to try it. They don't think it's going to work. They don't think that the players, they don't want to mess too much up by, I don't know how much say everybody has. It's weird, I guess, is where I'm at with you. I find it weird, but I have to believe there is a logical explanation, because surely if you're paid hundreds of or thousands of pounds a week, tens of £1,000s a week as a manager as well, you are not making decisions entirely based off of just like non-issues. But I will point out one thing, on that, and not be disrespectful to Cameron Archer, is that we are seeing a lot of players who have moved on loan or just not at the club who are doing really well. Like, where it's a Diaz is scoring goals, maybe it's because it's the Championship. Who knows? And likewise, Adam Armstrong scored in the first game. Yeah, okay, it's Championship opposition, but there's still I can't just accept that it's just because of the sheer gulf between the teams. Because you see with the FA Cup, you see bits and pieces. Yes, there's bits and changed around, but we have seen games where we should have definitely probably done something where we've thrown it all away. So I guess, yeah, I think he's been hard done by. I feel like there has to be be a reason why. I don't know if he's picking people based off solely how they're doing in training. I don't know if he's picking. He's clearly picking people based off of attitude as well.
And
right?
also, to come full circle, right, to bring it back to a point that I've been banging since like October, maybe. Sulemana has been effective when he's on the pitch. His skill is picking up the ball reasonably deep and using his pace and his control of the ball to run at defenders or fullbacks, and he is good at that, and he gets in positions like that, and he is able to go down either side and cross a ball in, and he is either able from either side to cut in and at least make it look like he's going to have a shot and be a threat. And that's fine and that's good, but he is not good at running on two balls and running in behind, which is what Cameron Archer is good at. I've speculated on all of these balls that bounce off of tall Paul that need a player to run in behind and run onto them. Why can't we have Cameron Archer and tall Paul play together ever? Why is this the combination that nobody has put together when it makes so much sense?
And again, like, I think it must. The only
I
thing
get it. I get it's hard to leave Camaldine out because he has been good, but it just feels like an option that works.
Why can't you have two at the front, one at the left, one at the right, and then keep a midfield and just not have a central player? There's lots of different ways you can set up. There must be reasons for not, or otherwise we're just insane, mate. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I agree with you, and I'm like, I think there's a world where you can have all three. If I'm totally honest, there is a world where you can have all three without.
It just means that Matty Fernandez has to maybe drop back a little bit from. He's kind of been playing this like false nine role and really sort of dragging the team up. It just means that he probably has to drop back to a slightly closer to maybe even an 8, but maybe a sort of number 10 role where he sits behind this front three instead of being the driving force into it, which might not necessarily play to his strengths, but he is a versatile player who will thrive.
Part of me just wonders, they just not like each other. Is that why? Tuapau and Cameron Archer just don't like each other, and then that's why they're not playing them together, because obviously, like, maybe, chemistry can play a role, right? Like, we're NFL fans, right?
Yeah.
As well. So Mahomes and Travis Kelce have one of the best partnerships in NFL because they're like busy mates as well. So it's like they know what each other's thinking, and like even me and you today have had a weird situation where we were trying to think of a word for good that's in with the kids, and I said, or down with the kids, and I said to like peng, and then you also said peng, without sometimes there's just that level of connection, and maybe they just don't have that bond, and that's a struggle. Whereas we know for a fact that he does have that bond with Sulemana. They're good mates, and that means that there is an expectation that you will play together better, right? So
I just don't think we've seen.
I think that, to be fair, that's a complete cop-out answer, because I can't find an explanation for you, Greg. I think it's insane. They should just try it out. What is there to lose? Season's gone anyway. just test it out.
Just play Yanni B at the back with Bree, Kyle Walker-Peters, and whoever you want out of Wellington and Yuki. Then have a midfield of Ugachugwu, Aribo, and Matty Fernandez, and play Archer, Toolpool, and Sulemana as a full front three. And then when whoever gets tired first gets tired, because one of those front three will, bring Tyler Diblin on to make an impact off the bench.
There we go. We've solved all our problems.
That's it. That's the solution. I can't wait for them to play exactly that on Saturday and still get beat 8-0 by Brighton.
But this is the other thing. I think the problem is that I know we're dragging out past runtime at this point, but like, this is where you say, oh, it's nice to have a plan B instead of a plan A. And as you pointed out, sometimes it feels like there's no plan A, and sometimes it just kind of feels like there's no real plan at all. And so then what is the impact of changing it up like this every so often? Because like at this point, if you're experimenting for what's going to work next year, you're not going to have half the players you currently have. So it's going to be difficult to bed it into a system anyway. So yeah, just try some stuff out. Like Russell Martin tried it twice, to be fair to him. He did that one thing against Bournemouth where he got battered because Maxwell Cornet was kind of on his own as a striker. And then also we had that game against Spurs where he did play Sulemana and we played 4 at the back and got battered 4-0 before 25 minutes in. So I can also understand the risk of not playing to this way. But either way, I guess I just don't think at the moment there's any combination of players on the pitch and team sheet other than potentially, they've started Cameron Archer and Toolpool together, that's going to make me go, that's different and exciting. I just don't think there's anything they could do. Like, it's the problem we've got at the moment with like the way we're playing.
Back, and we're playing him in goal now.
Yeah, okay, like completely out there. But what I mean is like realistic form-ups and combinations. The only thing that I think most people sort of raised their eyebrow at was Will Smallbone, who, didn't play great, but then either did the whole of the midfield. I think Aribo also didn't play great. So I just think we got bossed in the midfield because, they were better than us.
I know that we're very quickly running out of time, and this is not entirely related to tactics, but I very briefly want to touch on a rumour I've heard floating around with you about why we don't play Bella Kotchap. Now, some have said that there is some sort of clause in his contract that means if he gets to his 25th Premier League appearance, which would be his next game with us, we have to pay some sort of money to either his old club or as like a bonus to him, and that is the reason we're not starting him. Now, I don't give this rumour any weight whatsoever because, for a start, if that was the case, why wouldn't we play him in the FA Cup?
Oh, good, I was about to say exactly that. But also we played him in the Cup once this season, so...
But I don't know. What do you think? There's anything to it? Or is that just...
That's definitely a thing that can happen in Football Manager, and it's definitely a thing that you will do when you sign a clause into a player's contract and then on the 24th appearance not do it. Do I see that being in real life in the way that we're running our football club? No. I also think
happened to AC Milan once with like a player that...
if you played Griezmann as well, right?
Griezmann, yeah.
Only 60 minutes, because if he played more than 60 minutes a game, that was like a problem.
Right, it wasn't AC Milan, it was Atletico,
So like that. Don't get me wrong, that kind of stuff exists, but also like we've had multiple opportunities to sell him. We blocked a transfer for him because I guess they were holding out for more money. So if that was a big worry, why would you have not just sold him to get rid of that worry off your books? That's insane. Just keeping a hold of a player. Maybe we are actually in the wrong. And, at this rate, I'm not really surprised if Southampton Football Club were doing that. They like to make financial decisions that seem to take a hit against the football. But I just think that, good Lord, that would be an extremely bad negotiated contract for everybody involved. And I don't know how much weight I throw to any of these rumours, because again, that is something that I could just make up because it happens in Football Manager. Tell you, and it gets around
24 Premier League appearances. That's weird. Yeah,
there's nothing has
come out with 34
ever been mentioned about that previously. I think there's either some personal stuff or some people constantly mention he was on his own at half time and wasn't training with the others and blah 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 blah. I personally I've given my opinions quite a lot on this, and I find it upsetting that it's still a massive subject, because honestly he's probably just a guy that wants to play his football. He's clearly either not impressed Juric or Juric is upset with him after having a clean slate. Martin didn't like him and about half of the squad we had anyway. Now that half of the squad are now getting a look in, and the other half of the squad that were Martin's favourites are now Flynn Downs hasn't played in 2-3 games at this point. So yeah, I just think for a professional footballer, it must suck. But also, I know for a fact that we have also had players that have had problems with attitude, and even some of our big players now, like Jan Bednarek, went off to Villa and called us a small club, came back with his tail between his legs. We've forgiven him now, but that is just also as a thing, as we've discussed before, that can happen, right? I don't know what the answer is, and I think it's harsh to consistently speculate on what is going on behind the scenes. I think it was really bad either way that any sort of medical stuff was leaked. That's awful and shouldn't have ever happened. If he gets a chance, happy days. I don't think that speculating every single week that he's going to get a chance helps, because you could say the same about our new lad in the under-21s. You could say the same about Victor Udu, who we bought on deadline day, who's not played and probably won't because he's going to go into the under-21s. Whatever happens in the future with him, And, it's going to end up as one of those weird periods of times and weird transfers, like, for example, Kevin Danso or, other transfers like that just haven't worked out. And whether it's because he's got an attitude problem, whether it's because he was too big for his boots, whether or not it's just because Juric doesn't like him and he actually would come on and absolutely boss the game. At the end of the day, we're not going to know. And consistently speculating on about it is difficult because and kind of feels silly at this point, because it's like I just don't see what we talk about every week, and it's just because we've got tons of players that probably we could talk about on top of that don't play week in, week out, that are in the under-21s.
Yeah.
I don't know what my point is here. I've done a real good job of just rambling on this episode. But I guess the answer to your actual question, circling it back, because I have to do that, or otherwise I'll never answer any of your questions. I'd be a real good politician. Answering your actual question, I don't really give any credence to those sort of rumours, especially with some of the sources that have come out, in recent times have been trash. And how many transfer stories did we see that went nowhere?
Yes.
And that includes out. Some would definitely, I wouldn't have put any money on Adam Armstrong leaving on the day, but he did. But I would have put probably more money on some of the other players that haven't. So it is what it is.
It is indeed. Well, that well and truly is all we've got time for today. Zach, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Let us know, what do you think we can do to not get absolutely battered by Brighton? Answers on a postcard to Staplewood Training Centre. They'll be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. And
Fall straight into a shredder, mate.
But yes, please let us know in the comments. Hit us up on the socials. We're on Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, on the Global Sports Podcast Network channel, Instagram, Blue Sky, all of them. Give us a shout out. We will take on board anything you say and go from there. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with a Wildcard Wednesday. Until then.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.